Hello, my name is Brianna Reeves, and this is my week 5 multimedia entitled Change. The change that I would like to see happen immediately would be a change on the usage and the policy of body cams. And the reason I think that this needs to be an immediate change is because the public's negative opinion on law enforcement that has transpired in the last few months. And I believe that a policy change in the usage of body cams would help ease the tension between law enforcement and the public. In 1829, Sir Robert Peel stated that the ability of the police to perform their duties is dependent upon the public's approval of police existence, actions, behaviors, and the ability for the police to secure and maintain the public's respect. The three themes I'm going to talk about with the new policy change is how it's going to affect accountability, training, and motivation for the department. The first theme I'm going to talk about is accountability, and why I believe this is the most important of the three is because most employees, if they're held accountable for their actions, they will either stop doing the poor behavior or they will continue doing the behavior that gets them rewarded. As a leader in the department, it is your responsibility to hold your employees accountable. And what that means is taking the videos of the body cams and disciplining when needed and be the authority. If you're watching something that's transpired and you see that the deputy did not provide great customer service or did not follow policy, you need to hold them accountable, because if you don't, you're going to continue to see the same deputies making the same mistakes because they know, who cares? You know, nobody's going to hold me accountable for it. I'm going to do what I think is right. And with everything that's going on right now, the public wants to see that law enforcement officers that are not doing right are being held accountable and they're not continuing to do what is essentially hurting the public. In addition to Henry Fayol's 14 principles of management, I also think that Mary Parker Follett's more of shared power is also a great aspect to holding individuals accountable. So if you're watching these videos of the interactions with the law enforcement and the public, it's a good teaching mechanism to use, gathering, okay, so you were in this situation and it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. What would you have done differently? And if you really put it back on the deputies, they might have a different outlook on the scenario. I also think as well that the body cams and Max Weber's strict rules and regulations, there should be a lot of black and white when it comes to dealing with the public and how you're going to use your use of force in different scenarios. At what point is this allowed and is it not? And that's really where Max Weber's black and white rules and regulations is going to come into play with the accountability aspect of the new policy change. The next theme I'm going to talk about is the use of body cams and the training aspect on it. I touched on it a little bit previously, but I definitely think re-watching the interactions is going to be an awesome training tool for new deputies that are maybe so used to doing everything the same way, and they're a product of, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but really you can use these interactions as a training tool for what to do and what not to do. I also think for the employees that are, or the deputies that are doing right and having a great relationship with the public, their interaction should be a classroom setting. I mean, training is not something that you get trained once on a scenario and that's it. Like, the organization has to continue coming back and training these deputies because everything is changing. I mean, even right now with COVID-19 and how law enforcement is interacting with the public. I think the game theory really looks at the behavioral aspect of law enforcement and the public, and the body cams will be able to see how the behavior is between the two. And this also helps the employee take a step back and look at their decision making and see if what they did was the correct decision, or could they have handled that interaction differently. It's a good tool that a lot of times when you're interacting with somebody, it's kind of a blur. So maybe the outcome wasn't what you wanted. You can revisit the interaction and say, okay, maybe I could have done this differently, and then the suspect or the person that you were interviewing wouldn't have snapped because of a comment that I made or a body position I showed them. And the last and final theme that I believe the body cams can enhance is taking the employees that are doing a fantastic job when the leaders are constantly watching these live feeds, and it's no longer you're only going to turn your body cam on when needed. It's going to be running at all times. You can really take those employees that are doing a great job and you can recognize them. You can, give them an attaboy. And that goes back to Abraham Maslow when it comes to human needs and what we need. Maslow's hierarchy pyramid starts with basic needs, and it really goes up to the top where it talks about personal esteem, feelings of accomplishment, and how those take priority. Maslow emphasized on the importance of self-actualization, which is the process of growing and developing as a person. So what we can take is those body cams and the visuals and really motivate our employees when they're doing a good job. And that means boosting their self-esteem, showing other employees, hey, look at this interaction with a individual and how well the outcome was. I don't know about anybody else, but my greatest feeling is when I can take an irate person that's ready to jump off a ledge and I can bring them down and they end up leaving my office with, a smile on their face. It's funny because all my employees, anytime I do that, they're always like, oh, that's why you get paid the big bucks, because I just love taking somebody that is so upset because of a policy or an interaction and then getting them to really understand why we have to implement this, or why, this situation transpired in this way. So the motivation behind the body cam is going to be a tool to get the employees to want to do that good job, because they want to be recognized. They want to be successful. They want to be used as examples. And at the end of the day, the new body cam policy, holding employees accountable, training them so they can be better employees, and also motivating them to want to be the employee that impacts the community. And that is the result that this new policy change will have. It's going to show not only the public, but law enforcement that we can all work together, and at the end of the day, the community that they're serving is the priority of the employee.